I'll take the oath on the Bible, Peter.
Testimonies. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
So, would you state your name?
My name is Testimonies Singh.
What is your address?
My address at the time was 164 4th Street, Alexander Village.
At the time,
In 2020.
what is your current position?
I am Chief Executive Officer of the Presidential Corporation.
And what are you qualified as?
I am a chartered accountant 2 times over, both in the United States and the United Kingdom, and I have 2 master's degrees.
Now, Mr. Singh, I will ask you to just keep in mind that you have to put your voice up because we have to get your words recorded clearly and you have to speak a bit more slowly. Now, you gave a statement in this matter.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
And did you sign it?
Yes, I did.
And did you initial the pages?
Yes, I did.
If you see your statement again, will you be able to identify it by your signature and initials?
Yes, I'm sure I can.
I'm going to ask the document to show to you.
Yes. Of Demerara. So I did see how they were. Yes.
Briefly describe that process to me.
Well, the process is an extended process, but what it entails in the preparation after all the parties in the room have agreed on the numbers by the tally sheet, the polling officer or GCOM will, in that case, the hope was a lady, so I would say she will then
Tell
Right.
us what she did.
she wrote the numbers that everybody in the polling office or the polling station. She wrote it down pretty hard on a statement of poll, but she had to press because it's like a book. It's like about 10 pages, so it's carbonless paper. So as she writes hard, she wants the 10th paper at the bottom to be recorded, whatever is being recorded on the first paper. So yeah, she wrote it all and then she passed it around the room for everyone to sign, meaning all the polling agents, all the observers, the international observers, if they were there, and she also signs along with her officer.
Sure. Now, did the PPPC get a copy of the statement of polls from that polling station?
Yes, definitely.
And did you have a look at it?
Yes, definitely.
And were you able to clearly see the numbers on that particular station?
Yes, most certainly. It was legend.
Now, in paragraph 4 of your statement, you talk again about statements of polls, correct?
Yes.
And you say that the verification process is done by comparing carbon copies, which GCOM had, with carbon copies given out to party agents. Now, is there anything you wish to say now with respect to that phrase, carbon copies?
Well, I grew up in the old school, so I know about black paper, but in this case, there's no black carbon papers. It's carbonless documents in the modern age.
So you would like to correct what is?
Yes, yes.
Thank you. Now, do you recall the 3rd of March 2020?
Definitely.
At about 1:30 that morning, where did you go?
Well, after we all returned with these statement of polls to the party headquarters, I was instructed to tend to a place called Ashwin's Building at the corner of Hatfield and High Street.
Okay, now just pause for a second. As far as possible, I want you to tell us what you, as an I, did, said, that kind of thing. If you can recall who you went with or who you spoke to, then you say we, and you explain to us who the we would include. Alright? So, you received instructions. Sorry, I beg your pardon.
No, sorry. Go ahead.
So you received instructions and you went to Ashman's building. And from your understanding, what was taking place there?
Well, that was the office of the RO, which is a returning officer.
For
and
which district?
For district number 4.
And when you got there, did you meet anyone?
Yes, I met Ms. Sonia Barak, and Mr. Lieutenant Singh, and Mr. Charles Ramsey.
No.
Well, Miss Barak actually came a few minutes later after me, but the person who I met was Charles Ramson. He was there.
And did he have a particular role
Well,
in the PPPC?
I was advised he was the counting agent of the party.
Sure. When you got to that building, did you go to any particular area?
Yes, the GCOM officials directed you to a particular area, which is, they call it the verification and tabulation room. And that was in the northeastern part of the building on the ground floor.
When you got to that room, can you tell us who was in there?
There were many people, and I assume they represented GCOM, the international observers, the local observers, the political parties. Yes, but there were many people in the room.
And did you see the returning officer for District 4?
Well, when I arrived immediately, no, he wasn't there, but then he came in and held a meeting subsequently, immediately after.
With whom?
With everybody who was in the room. And he basically outlined the process he intended to follow with respect to following the law and outlining how you go about verifying and tabulating these results in accordance with the law.
And the returning officer's name was?
Mr. Claremont Mingo.
And when he advised you all as to what the process would be according to law, did he say anything in addition to
Yes, yeah. I mean, the crux of the entire long discussion was he was going to use his original SOPs to compare with what the respective observers and parties had, copies, carbonless copies, as we may call it that, to make sure that they're speaking the same language. So in accounting, we call it the reconciliation process.
Right.
But he called it the verification
Sure.
process.
Just a second.
Mr. Singh, I am more particularly interested, not in the crux of the matter, but I am particularly interested in hearing you relate what Mr. Mingo actually said. If you tell us about the crux, that would mean your understanding. But I would like to hear what he said, because process is assuming some importance. I have not come to any conclusions on anything, but I am interested in hearing about what he said.
All right, so
about what he said about the process.
Okay, so perhaps I could assist Commissioner. Now, Mr. Singh, you were there as the supernumerary agent.
Yes.
All right? So, you were keeping certain records. Now, were you recording what, or writing down or making notes of what people were saying?
No, not really.
Okay. So what I'm going to ask of you is, to the best of your recollection, what was actually said.
Well,
All right?
I've read that portion of the law, which is Section 84 of the Representation of the People's Act, many times after Mr. Mingo had that conversation with us.
Right,
So
okay.
I have an
Mr.
understanding.
Mr. Singh, we want to hear
So this is what he
what
said.
he said.
Based on what I can remember. He basically said that he will show us not here, when we say he and his staff,
Right.
they will show us the original statement, the polls that is in the possession of GCOM, and the representatives who were behind tables and they will call those numbers out. And the representative behind the tables are expected to confirm or contest if the numbers are not reconciling. And then he said, if you have any query, put your hands up. We'll do it statement of poll by statement of poll. So we're not going to move on to the next statement of poll until everybody in the room is happy with the process around a particular statement of poll. So that is what I heard.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now, sorry, commissioners have questions.
And Mr. Singh, when he outlined this procedure, did anyone object, or was there any expression of dissatisfaction by party agents with the procedure that he outlined?
Oh, most certainly not. Everybody was happy because yes, nobody objected. That's the answer.
Mr. Singh, if I may, one question. You said that Mr. Mingo said he'd show you the statement of poll. What is your understanding of what he meant by show you? Would it be projected, or it would actually be physically passed along for physical viewing?
Well, all the parties were in the front row. Mr. Mingo's team was right where this gentleman is. So we weren't far away from him. So when they lifted that statement, the poll, they actually lifted it like this. You could, unless you had bad eyes, could have seen the numbers because it was the original.
Forgive me.
Yeah.
But there are a line of party agents.
I know
So would it would be turned for?
exactly that happened in the inception
Yes.
on that night.
All right. Thank
Yes.
you.
The first time,
Yes, the first night.
everyone was being shown the same.
Exactly that happened. Exactly what this young man, Commissioner Smith's. So that is what the staff did. They slowly, and they did it very slowly. They moved from, it was like they were on a pivot, and they showed everyone those original statement of polls. Now, if you had, I've seen cases where some of the parties would say they would step up to just take a better look, but everybody saw it. Nobody objected.
What I also want to ask you is, how were these statements of polls being called? Were they being called in order, or just, any statement of poll from any batch would be pulled out and called out? If I may give context, District 4 is divided into 4 sub-districts: East Bank Demerara, South Georgetown, North Georgetown, and East Coast of Demerara. The first sub-district that was being processed was South Georgetown. Yes.
So it was being called in a numerical order in South Georgetown.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Now, you said that Mr. Mingo, sorry.
sorry about that.
Not at all. Now, apart from telling you what the process was going to be, did Mr. Mingo give any commitment to yourself and the other persons in that room?
Yes, he did.
What did he say?
Well, he said that he and his staff will work through the night, into the morning, into the next day, until all of the statements of polls are processed. I don't know if it was then or, but somewhere along the line, Mr. Mingo made a comment, the nation is waiting on us.
Did you make any request of Mr. Mingo when he explained the process?
Yes, I did ask Mr. Mingo if we can have totals, being an accountant. Yes.
Just 1 second.
Yeah.
And did you, is there any way Ms. Vera might be able to assist?
No.
Sure. Did you talk to him about the process including sub-regions?
Yes. I asked if he could give us the totals and if we can do it sub-regions by sub-regions. So
What was his response?
he was very favorable on that time. He said, yes, let's finish South Georgetown and then we will move to the other sub-regions.
So you began with South Georgetown,
Yes, we began.
not East Bank.
Not East Bank.
You're very sure of
I'm
that?
absolutely sure.
After he gave his explanation, did they, what you refer to as the reconciliation process, did it begin?
You mean the night when we arrive? That's
Yes, this
March
is on
3rd.
the 3rd.
Yes, it began.
And at some point, was it interrupted?
Yes, it was interrupted subsequently.
Was this at about 9 o'clock in the night?
So we worked through the morning, through the entire day, until 9 that night. Of course, there were bathroom breaks and so forth, and lunch break. Yes, it was interrupted at 9 o'clock because
How was it? How did it come to a halt?
Mr. Mingo said his staff are very tired. They've been working since election day, and they need a break.
All right. And to whom did he say this?
He said it to the entire room.
What was the response? I beg your pardon.
No, go ahead, finish your question.
What was your response when he said that? What was your response?
Can I answer? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, my response was that why are we stopping? Because he made a prior commitment that we're going to work until we finish everything.
At that point, can you, do you have any idea how many statements of polls had been finished?
Well, we were working through South Georgetown, and I think it was about 65, somewhere in the 60s, but 65, 66 was done at that point in time.
Did any other person apart from yourself say anything at that point?
Yes, everybody was very unhappy. I mean,
What did they say?
Well, people were saying, why are we stopping? People were objecting. People said, why can't we change the tired people and replace them with other GCOM staff to continue the process?
When that suggestion was made to Mr. Mingo, what did he say?
Could I refresh my memory? Because I can't, I just want to make sure that I...
Sure. Remember, testimony is not a memory test, all right?
Mm-hmm.
If you can't remember, or if it's not in your statement, it's okay to say so.
So as I said, everybody was protesting, and some people also ask, why don't you replace with alternative GCOM members? But Mr. Mingo held his own, and he said that we'll recommence in the morning.
Did he give a time?
Yes, 9 o'clock was the traditional time.
Okay.
That's the time he gave.
So the recommencement would be 9 o'clock on the 4th of March 2020,
Yes,
correct?
yes.
Mr. Cisnerain.
Sing.
So it would be fair to say that up until 9 p.m. on the evening of the 3rd, there were no problems. Everything
No.
went smoothly.
There was no problems.
Thank you.
I can say that emphatically.
And did you then leave Ashman's building?
Yes, I left to well, it was 9 at night, so
Sure.
I left to get some rest and be ready for 9 a.m. the following day. But
And did
when
you return?
when I left, I want to make this clear because it was a strategy of all the persons that I talked to that we were going to do a shift system, so that because the original statement, the polls were in that room, so everybody, if somebody was checking out, you had a replacement for you at all times. So the room was occupied throughout the entire night. It was manned throughout the entire period. There was not a second where there was no one in the room.
That is the very room where the statements of.
This
It
was the
wasn't that
very.
It was closed and people waited
No,
outside.
no one left the room. If I left, I know there was somebody who was replacing me. And when I came in the morning, it was like a handover process. Because one of the things that we were worried about is that they said, okay, fine, you go home, and then the process started back at 3 a.m. in the morning. So there was somebody who was always in the room.
In actual fact, the statements of poll were guarded.
By everybody, by the nation, because there were many, many stakeholders there. GCOM was there. The political, I think there was 10 political parties were there. The international observers were there and the local observers. So at all times they had representatives in the room.
Did you return the next morning for 9 a.m.?
Yes, I did.
And did you return to that same room, the
Yeah,
tabulation
yes, I
room?
did.
Can you tell us briefly what happened shortly after you arrived there?
That was the morning when, well, nothing started at 9 o'clock. And the rumors started going around that Mr. Mingo fell ill, but I didn't see Mr. Mingo at that point in time. And
Did you see any other GCOM employees there at 9 a.m.?
well, the GCOM people, so if I may permit, with your permission, the building is in the northeastern side. The room is in the northeastern side of the building. On the eastern side of the building, GCOM had barricaded it with desk. So behind that was where the statement, the polls were with the GCOM officials. And then on this side, the western side of that room, was where the rest of stakeholders were.
So when you went in at 9 a.m., did you see GCOM employees
They were there all the time too, yes, they were there.
Good.
Mhm.
Were you asked to vacate that room shortly after you arrived that morning?
Yes, they said they wanted to clean the room, and I found that kind of baffling, because why would you be cleaning a room at 9 a.m. for a 9 a.m. activity?
And did anyone leave the room?
No. What was arranged is that we were going to move all the stakeholders, move all the stakeholders to the western part of the room, so they clean the eastern part of the room, and then people would have gone to a clean part and allow them to clean the room. They tried and they cleaned the room
Can
subsequently.
you remember who asked for you all to vacate the room so that the cleaners could come into the room?
I think it was Miss Roxanne Meyer. It was Miss Roxanne Myers. Yes.
Now, later that morning at 10:46, did you see Miss Myers again?
Yes. That was the morning when Mr. Mingo was moved out by an ambulance. She came to announce that Mr. Mingo is ill.
She came to announce in the tabulation room?
Yes, she went to the front of the room, which is the northern part of the room, and she stood there and she announced to the entire room that Mr. Mingo is ill.
And did she tell you what was going to happen as a result? What GCOM was going to do at that point?
Yes, she said that they are going to have an emergency meeting of the commission, and they'll make some decisions, and those decisions will be communicated to the stakeholders.
And did she make any complaint to the persons there?
Well, she was complaining that the room is too full. She said there was too many people in the room.
And was anyone else there making such a complaint?
No, certainly not.
Before she said that, had anybody from GCOM, well, from the night of the 2nd up till that time, had anybody complained about the room being too full?
No, certainly not. It was as the process was moving along, there was a very happy mood in the room.
Okay.
People were working together.
Okay.
So this is the first time we heard that complaint.
And did Ms. Myers give any instructions with respect to how many people could be in that room thereafter?
Yes, I cannot, let me see if let me just rack my brain. She
Would
did.
you like to refresh your
I wouldn't mind, but I think yeah, let me
Just
just,
now.
let me refresh my.
Just a second. Natasha, could you just pass it to him? I think it is paragraph 7. He's being shown with your lead, paragraph 7.
Yes.
Just a second, sir. Okay. Yes. So did Ms. Myers give any instructions to the persons in the room?
Yes, she said that only 3 persons per stakeholder will be allowed in the room going forward.
And did anyone leave the room?
No, everybody they just didn't comply.
Sure. At 11:30 that morning, sorry?
Did you understand that to be a GCOM decision or a Miss Myers decision?
At that point in time, we thought that it was a Miss Myers. At least I thought it was Miss Myers' decision. It was because she said she was going to a meeting, but I thought it was Miss Myers' decision.
But Miss Myers did not say GCOM decided.
No.
She never said that.
No, she never said that. She said that the room is too congested, and I'm asking all the stakeholders to reduce the number of people in the room to 3.
Now, the returning officer, Mr. Mingo, while he had been doing the reconciliation process with party agents and so on, before this time, had Mr. Mingo at all told you all anything about the room being congested?
No, certainly not.
Had he asked anybody to leave?
No, certainly not.
At 11:30 that morning, did you observe anything?
Yes, I was in the verification and tabulation room, and I observed Mr. Mingo in a wheelchair being lifted down the steps, and I saw some flashing lights, and I looked out because, again, the room is in the northeastern corner of the building. So if you pull the blinds on the northern side, you can see the road. So when I
Yes.
pulled the blind, I saw an ambulance, and I saw Mr. Mingo being assisted into the ambulance.
All right. So all of this time, party agents and observers are still waiting in the tabulation room.
Yes.
Now, about 10 minutes after Mr. Mingo is taken away in the ambulance, did you see Miss Myers again?
Yes, she came back, yes.
And did she speak to you and others in the room?
Yes, she did.
What did she say?
She said that the information she has is the medical vitals of Mr. Mingo is normal, and he will be back after, I think it was 45 minutes or sometime that, yeah, she will be back to recommence the process.
And did she then leave the room and come back into it 5 minutes later?
Yes, she did.
But when she came back into the room, did she say anything to you and to others there?
Can
in
I
relation to observers?
Oh yes, at that point in time again, maybe she was moving towards, she basically said that the international observers and local observers will only have 2 members in the room, and the political parties will have 3 members in the room. So she tightened, it was 3 for everybody before, now it was 2 for the international observers and local observers, and 3 for the political parties.
And all this time, no reconciliation or verification is going on, correct?
Yeah, nothing is happening.
Now, can you remember any of those international observers?
Yes, there were international observers. I remember there was a former Prime Minister from Jamaica. There was also the former Prime Minister from Barbados. And I remember one of them in particular who was a good storyteller. He was telling a lot of stories in the room.
Sure, okay.
Yeah.
So, did you all comply with her instructions to reduce the numbers in the room?
No, but what happened, I saw 2 heavily armed police arrive at the doors of the room. But
And-
nobody left.
Okay. Now, when the heavily armed officers arrived at the door, was any requirement, well, did any party have a new requirement? Did you have to record your names or anything?
Well, if you were coming into the room, yes, you had to record. But those who were already in the room did not leave. But once you left, then there was a process to get back in now. And
Had
yeah.
that process been in place before?
No, not before that point in time.
Now, on
So-
that, sorry.
So who engineered, introduced this process?
I don't know. It's just being, all these instructions were emanating from Ms. Roxanne Myers.
Do you know definitively that she gave these instructions to?
Well, I was there listening to the instructions, but nobody was complying with
I
them.
see. Okay.
But nobody was complying with it. But what happened with the 2 heavily armed police there, I saw when one was trying to get in, he had to say which political party he's from, and then they had to confirm whether that political party had 2 or 3 members in there, and people were denied also from coming in after that, because you would have reached your quota, so to speak.
Did you know, sir, the Chief Election Officer, Mr. Keith Lowenfield?
If I know him,
Did you know him at that time or know of him?
I know of him from the newspapers.
Sure. And on that day, did you see him?
Yes.
Where did you see him?
He came into the room.
And did he say anything when he came into the room?
Well, he was the one who announced that Mr. Mingo is not coming back that day because of his illness. Well, he went away with an ambulance.
And did he offer any alternative to the representatives there for the process to continue?
Well, he said at that point in time that he's empowered to appoint DROs, which is the deputy to the ROs, to continue the process. But at that point in time, he only had DROs from the East Bank of Demerara accessible to him.
Yes. So at 1:15, did new members of staff take up their position in the room?
Yes, Mr. Lowenfield introduced them to the room, yes.
And did the process restart?
Well, it restarted, but there was a fundamental difference now.
Okay, explain that to us, please.
The process that we were accustomed to before, whereby they were showing the SOPs to the entire room slowly, was not the process that we saw. First of two things happened that concerned me. One was that he said these DROs are from the East Bank of Demerara, and they will have to start the East Bank of Demerara, recognizing that that they were unfinished business in South Georgetown to complete that sub-district. And they...
Sorry. So he acknowledged and made it clear that he knew that South Georgetown was not complete.
Yes, he acknowledged South Georgetown was not complete. And my records at that time told me that there was still 65 statement of polls to go
For South Georgia.
for South Georgetown to complete that sub-district.
I see. So, from my understanding, he gave you an explanation. He said, I only have DROs from
East
another
Bank,
area.
East Bank
so
of Demerara.
this is why we are starting with that count?
Yes.
Well, when this was said, did anybody there object to that?
Yes. The lawyers in the room objected formally. In particular, I can remember Mr. Anil Nandalal.
What did he say?
He objected formally. He basically said, and again, I'm not a lawyer, so I'm just going to quote what I recall. He said that the law says a DRO from District 4 can work on any area in District 4. It doesn't have to be restricted to a sub-district. That is what I recall he said. And they were having these, I think those purple books were brought out, and Mr. Mingo was having some discussions with the lawyers huddled. So yes, they were discussing the reality of these DROs finishing South Georgetown.
Now, after the lawyers made their representations to Mr. Lowenfield, showing him the law books and so on, did he change his position?
No, he didn't.
And did he offer an explanation as to why he was not accepting their representations?
Well, the same argument he put forward. He's saying these DROs are from East Bank, and these are the DROs. They will work in their sub-district. Basically, that's what he was saying.
Sure. So you told us just before we went into that area of your evidence that there were two fundamental differences, and you just explained one to us. What was the second one?
The second fundamental difference was these two DROs that came did not have SOPs. They had a spreadsheet, a piece of paper that had an Excel spreadsheet, and they were going to be calling numbers from that spreadsheet as representation of the SOP.
And who gave, perhaps I should put it this way. Did anyone, or did you hear anyone give instructions to those DROs to use that methodology?
Well, Mr. Lowenfield was in the room. So, again, the objection starting from the room, everybody's like, what is going on here?
Sure, pause.
Yes.
Now, were you still seated in the front row?
Yes.
And were you in a position to see this spreadsheet that you have just described?
No, I was not able to see the numbers on the spreadsheet because they weren't raising it up. It was on their table and they were having a ruler and they were just going down with the ruler and calling the numbers.
And were the numbers visible in any way, in any other way to the people in the room?
No, it was not visible.
Before they began using the spreadsheet, did the two GCOM employees or the two DROs give an explanation to the people there as to why they were using spreadsheets?
Mr. Lowenfield said it, in the interest of delivering to the nation, it is found to be administratively efficient, more efficient, to use the spreadsheet versus what was done on the prior occasion.
Did he, sorry?
I've heard very clearly what you said, so I suppose this question can be viewed as a bit gratuitous. You're absolutely clear that that was the gist of what the CEO said, that he said this is more efficient.
Yes,
process.
he did, because my training, I always look for efficiencies, and I remember him using that word in particular, that this is more efficient, because he said we lost all this time with the illness and the ambulance business and so forth. We need to catch up. So he said it's more administratively efficient for us to use this spreadsheet to report to the nation.
Thank you.
Well, having told you about efficiency, did he then give you all copies of the spreadsheets?
No, he did not.
Did he tell you who had prepared those spreadsheets?
No, he didn't tell us who's prepared them.
Did he tell you how those spreadsheets were populated with those particular numbers?
No, no one in the room, at least I wasn't aware how it was populated.
Just a second.
Was any request made for spreadsheet?
No one in the, no one, I was there, and the period of time that I was there, no one made a request verbally for any spreadsheet.
So, as I understand it, the new members of staff came in, took up their position. They had spreadsheets with them. And Mr. Lowenfield explained why you are now going to use spreadsheets. But there was no request by anyone for copies of the spreadsheet.
Well, no, nobody agreed with the process. Nobody asked for the spreadsheet while I was there. So I'm just saying that nobody asked for it.
Nobody.
Did anyone inquire where the data on the spreadsheet came from?
What I heard resoundingly was everybody's asking, let us return to the process that we were doing with South Georgetown. Everybody said that is what the law requires. Let's just go back to doing it what the law requires.
Let me walk you back a bit.
Mhm.
One more. Yes, Mr. Singh. I'd just like momentarily to walk you back. You said someone said Mr. Mingo would not be returning because he had fallen ill. Was that Ms. Myers? At paragraph 12, you say...
May I just, with your permission, have a look,
Yes.
revisit my notes?
fine. It's a little warm. It's a little warm today.
Is that a one on?
That was Mr. Mingo. Not Mr. Mingo, Mr. Lowenfield.
Yes.
Mr.
Now-
Lowenfield was the one who issued that directive to say that
It's not a directive, it's an announcement.
Right, an
Yeah.
announcement that
Now-
Mr. Mingo is not going to
now-
come back.
This was the same occasion when he was taken off by ambulance.
Well, when he was taken off, that was Miss Myers came in and say that he's going off by ambulance.
Right.
But when the actual transition from Georgetown to East Bank happened, Mr. Lowenfield was the one who said, Mr. Mingo is not coming back.
And
So-
that not coming back was flowing from his having left in an ambulance.
Right.
Yes. So how much time elapsed between his going and the 1:15 p.m. engagement?
It's 2 years now, but I know that it was just before lunch. I think he left in the ambulance at about 11 o'clock, somewhere around there.
And this 1:15 p.m. date, the 1:15 p.m. time is on the same date.
Yes.
So between 11 and 1:15, a spreadsheet was generated.
Well, this process changed.
Yes.
Yeah.
The process changed, but the fact is, you say they came with a spreadsheet.
Yes, at 1:15.
So up to the time when the last count before Mr. Mingo fell ill, the process was, see, they were holding up statements of poll. So there could not have been any spreadsheet. So between his falling ill and 1:15, maybe 2 hours, spreadsheet appears.
Right, but the question is, the last time we did this was 9 o'clock the night before. Remember,
they-
he postponed it
so-
until 9 a.m.
So there was time for the
and then
preparation
the
of a
9
spreadsheet.
a.m. He couldn't come. Then 10:46, Miss Myers announced he's ill, and the time keep burning all the time.
So I have another question. The two people who came as replacements for the process to continue, were they working with Mr. Mingo prior to their arrival?
Well, let me make this clear. I can only talk from my observation. I was totally focused on the room. I made it my solemn duty to make sure I focus on the room. So I didn't see these two people before, whether they were walking outside or they were working.
No, that's not what
Yeah,
I'm asking you.
yeah.
I'm just saying, I'm speaking about the verification process.
Yes.
You are there, Mingo is there. Were these two persons in the room while that process was going on? Was going on without protest or objection from anyone?
I can't recall whether they were there or not. I mean, there were so many people from GCOM in
Look,
and out the room.
it's either you could. It's not a big issue if you don't remember. I'm just trying to see.
No, I don't remember.
You don't
I
remember.
don't remember.
Thank you.
So you had returned to Ashman's building for 9 when you had expected that the process would restart, correct?
Agreed.
And in truth and in fact, nothing began until about 1:15 that day, correct?
Correct.
And is it correct to say that you have no idea about how this spreadsheet may have been prepared, correct?
I have no idea how the spreadsheet was prepared.
Who prepared it,
I have no idea who prepared it.
nor what it contained?
I have no idea what was on those spreadsheets.
What I want to ask you about is, from that period of time when party agents had been asked to return to Ashman's building for the restart of the process, to 1:15 p.m. when the process actually restarted, did any member of GCOM advise you that there was going to be a change in the procedure for verification, or, I like your word, reconciliation? Did any GCOM members?
No one, that entire morning was focused on the Mr. Mingo's ambulance situation and so forth. No one talked about process or anything to do with that reconciliation, as
Thank you.
you called it. As you called it.
Yes. Now, you told us that the GCOM officers started with a different district, and you told us how that occurred. And people protested.
Yes.
And the CEO didn't change his position.
No, he did not.
Did you see Ms. Myers at that point?
Yes. When the transition was happening to the new team, both himself, the CEO and Ms. Myers came
Into the tabulation
into
room.
the tabulation room.
And did Ms. Myers speak to you all at all, or did she say anything? Did she say anything in relation to South Georgetown?
Yes, when I protested, I personally protested to say that we still have we have 65 SOPs still to be verified. And she said her records said there's only 3 to be verified, 3 statement of polls to be verified. And she requested a list of the 65 South Georgetown SOPs to be provided to GCOM, and that was provided.
By you?
Yes.
And by chance, would you still have a copy of that list?
I don't know if it, because all my documents I surrendered to the party.
I see. Okay. Now, did anyone else apart from you on behalf of your party say anything about South Georgetown not having been completed?
Yes, there was a crescendo of protest that we should complete South Georgetown. I know, as I said, for example, one voice I can recall is Mr. Anil Nandalal, who was the lead lawyer in the room for the PPP. He expressed vehemently that we should complete South Georgetown, and the law provides for the DROs to do that.
Sure. Now, did any other party provide Ms. Myers with lists like yours?
Well, she asked everyone, but I don't know if the others did, but I know the PPP did provide the list.
Did she tell you what were the numbers, the identifying numbers of these 3 unverified statements of polls that she was
No,
referring
she didn't
to?
provide that.
And did Ms. Myers tell you anything about the commission giving permission to start East Bank?
Can I revisit my note with your permission?
Sure, it's a long statement.
Yes. So, and it's 2 years ago too.
Yeah, oh, you have it there, yes. Perhaps you could look at paragraph 18. No, perhaps you could keep it there in case we need to refresh his memory. Thanks. Yes, so having refreshed your memory from your statement, can you now assist us as to whether Ms. Myers said anything about the commission giving permission to start East Bank?
Yes, she said at the emergency meeting the commission had, they issued instructions that they can start East Bank.
At that, well, up till that point in time, had you seen any GCOM commissioner in the room?
No. Well, there was, yes, I must say that I didn't see the chairman, so I want to make that clear. I didn't see the chairman in the room up to that time, but I did see Mr. Says Gonraj through the corner of my eyes coming in every now and then.
Can I ask you, Mr. Singh? When Ms. Myers said that the commission had approved of restarting with East Bank, was Mr. Gunraj present?
No, he wasn't.
But did you subsequently speak with him about this development?
No, I didn't, because as I said, the lawyers were in the room, so I presume they would have.
Took a back seat as an
I
accounting person.
I must confess I didn't pursue that course.
And is it because, as far as you were concerned, you were there to deal with the figures?
I was more concerned about getting the right numbers on documented, yes, and the reconciliation to be done
Sure,
accurately.
and as far as you were concerned, the lawyers had to do what the lawyers had to do?
They just divide it, based on specialism.
Sure.
Yes, divide the work.
Now, when you gave Ms. Myers this list showing that what she was saying about there being only 3 unverified statements of polls for that particular region, did she say anything to you?
Pardon me, can you repeat the question?
Okay, when you gave her your list, did she say anything to you? Did she say she'd get back to you or anything like that?
Yes, they said they were going to get back to us.
And did she get back to you about the information which you gave to her on your list?
Well, I've never gotten back anything.
So I'm going to take you to 2:35 on that day, and at that point the verification process using the spreadsheet began, correct?
Well, it began based on GCOM driving a process.
Sure, understood. So they started a process using a spreadsheet.
Yes.
Now, can you now recall what happened after GCOM started using this spreadsheet?
Well, if I may, one of the commitments the CEO offered was that if we find any discrepancies via this new process, he was going to personally investigate it. So nobody was in agreement with this process, but as I said, it was a GCOM driven process, and I was just making sure, I just started to document the numbers as they were calling it and comparing it against the SOPs that I...
Perhaps, Councilman, you might like to ask the question again so we could get a specific answer.
Mhm.
So when the process began using the spreadsheet, were the numbers matching up?
Definitely not. The first 21 SOPs that I had in my possessions from East Bank, 17 of them were materially different from the numbers being called by the GCOM people from this spreadsheet.
And can you now recall in which categories? It might be a bit of a stretch if you can't recall, say so. In which categories you found discrepancies?
Strangely enough, everyone was a casualty except the APNU AFC. Of course, the party that had the biggest casualty was the PPPC. So what was happening, they were deflating everybody's number except the APNU AFC, and the APNU numbers were being inflated.
Now, when these discrepancies...
So that was the discrepancy that you recognized.
Yes.
With the exception of the APNU AFC, all other competing political parties, when compared
With the SOP.
with your SOPs, their numbers were deflated. And for the APNU, AFC, when compared with the statements of poll that you had, their numbers were inflated. And that, you say, happened 17 out of 21
17
times,
out of the 21 SOP
as a sampling.
as a sampling.
Just so I don't have to interrupt council once you're you said the chief elections officer, Mr. Lowenfield, had undertaken to personally investigate, as you put it, if there were any of the discrepancies which you just described. Did he in fact do anything when you all protested these discrepancies?
Well, by the 21st SOP, there was loud protest in the room.
Wait,
And he came.
I need to be
He
clear.
came back.
So what happened for the first through 20 discrepancies? You said by the 21st there was a loud protest.
Yes, so he came back into the room.
But what happened with the first 1 to 20? You all said nothing? Nobody protested?
Everybody was protesting every time, but
But he wasn't there.
he wasn't there. And the GCOM personnel in front continued to call the numbers.
And so when he came in, what did he do, if anything?
Well, what he did is that he called for 3 of the 21 SOPs to be investigated the way we did it on the prior occasion. So where they show it, the original SOPs in the possession of GCOM, and compared it with the SOPs that the representatives had. And all 3 of them were wrong. Meaning the SOP was wrong on all 3 of them. Which means the GCOM SOP, those 3, reconciled exactly to the 3 SOPs that I had in my
You mean the
possession.
spreadsheet was wrong?
Yes, the spreadsheet was dead, just very wrong.
And did the chief then correct or cause to be corrected the spreadsheets? After satisfying himself that
The
the
spreadsheet was wrong.
discrepancies that you all were pointing out, he compared your SOPs to the original by your testimony, saw that indeed what you all were protesting was correct because it matched the original SOP, and that therefore the spreadsheet was wrong. Was any correction made to the spreadsheet?
No. No corrections was made to the spreadsheet. But the process stopped at that point in time. After the 21, it stopped. Because, so let me just, for the clarity of the chairman and the other commissioners, the 3 SOPs that he called to be brought to the front, he showed it, everybody saw it, and it reconciled exactly, the GCOM SOPs reconciled exactly with what I had. The only thing that was wrong was the statement of, sorry, the spreadsheet. This spreadsheet was very wrong.
What then happened? Okay, so did Mr. Lowenfield say anything to you all then to the effect that he's going to have it rectified?
Well, the process stopped at that point in time, and as I said, there was a lot of,
Why did the process stop? Did something happen?
because this discovery was made. And that is when all the lawyers from the different political parties, they were wrong, Mr. Lowenfield, at that point in time. And there was a very long, detailed discussion that we have to go back to the process that was abandoned the prior night.
So the persons who were calling out numbers on the spreadsheets, they stopped that
Yes, they stopped
They
because
stopped
Mr. Lowenfield came in. At 21, they stopped at that point in time.
at 21.
Yes.
I'd like to ask you, Mr. Singh. at the point in time when there was the examination of these three statements of poll, there was a clear discovery of discrepancy.
Yes, definitely.
Now, that was a recorded result using the erroneous information that was established, was on the spreadsheet.
Yes.
Was any attempt made or was any correction done to that information?
Not at that point in time, and I don't know if any was made subsequently, but at that point in time, there was no effort to amend.
The erroneous figures announced remained intact.
Yes, the spreadsheet was there, as is.
Thank you.
This might be more of a wondering aloud. I'm not sure if you would be able to assist me. But I'm wondering, since you said when you left the previous night at around 9, all the SOPs for GCOM remained in the room in which all the parties had representatives and observers and so on. I'm wondering if all the SOPs remain in the room, how could the spreadsheet have been populated? Because it would have to have been populated by reference to SOPs.
Well, there is two copies, based on my understanding of the process, that GCOM gets possession of. One is the original, which is in the possession of the RO, and one had to be forwarded to the chairman, CEO of GCOM, Mr. Lowenfield.
The chairman of GCOM.
No, not the chairman, the CEO of GCOM,
Yeah.
Mr. Lowenfield.
So the one for the RO would have remained in the room.
Well, I must say from the previous night, we saw them moving it from those bags onto the table, spreading it out, then bringing it to the front, then doing their process by showing it to everyone. So I'm assuming they were there.
You can't say whether copies would have been made and so on. As I said, I'm just thinking aloud.
They were, no, I don't know if they were made.
As an accountant, to populate this
You
spreadsheet,
need
you would
you need
an
evidence,
SOP.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
You need what they call it, source documents.
Yes. And it would take a while to populate the spreadsheets, I would think. Thank you. Thank you.
Now, sir, you had told us earlier that you had actually participated in the election process on the 2nd of March 2020. Is it correct to say that statements of one copy of the statement of polls for the polling station is posted up outside of the polling station?
Yes, at the end of the night, and I saw this at Hope Government School, the PO, as we call that person, in that case at Hope it was a lady, she instructed her staff, and they did. They took Scotch tape and they pasted it up outside. What was happening, a lot of members of the public were going with their cell phones and taking copies of that and going home.
And in addition to the two original copies which you've just described to us, one for the CEO, one for the returning officer, is it correct to say that there are many persons and parties who would receive copies of those statements of polls from the polling stations?
Yes, whoever was in the polling station and had a duly authorized, what they call them, polling agent,
Yes,
they got a copy that night of the elections.
I see. And I want to ask you something now.
Plus the public also got a copy because it was pasted on the outside of the school.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now, you just explained that there are two copies which come to GCOM, to GCOM's office post the receipt of the numbers from the polling stations. One is for the CEO, one is for the RO. But do you have any knowledge, are you in a position at all to say which is which?
No, I wouldn't know which is which, but by tradition, the RO gets the original. But I don't know if he got the original.
Sure. And you
Sec-
said, sorry.
You said that at Hope, you saw the statement of Paul pasted onto an exterior wall,
Yes, so just outside the classroom of the school.
and in your role as a supernumerary agent for a political party, would you have been to many polling stations at the close of polls? And did you see that replicated elsewhere?
Yes, yes, definitely. Definitely it was replicated in all the stations that I visited.
And can I ask you, that document that is pasted up on the building, there are party agents present at the count at that place of poll.
Yes, definitely.
Do they get any document at the end of the tally?
Every one of them who is representing a GCOM recognized agent, party or observer group, they got a copy of the document that was given to the RO and the chairman,
And that was pasted up.
the CEO, sorry. And that was also pasted.
All of the statements of poll are identical.
Identical. Well,
Nobody would have a different statement.
no one should have a different,
Ought to have.
or ought to, yeah, no
Yes.
one ought to, because
So the statement of poll pasted up, the statement of poll received by the RO, the statement of poll that's sent to the CEO, and all of the political party agents present at that particular polling place, they all, at the end of the exercise, will be in receipt of the identical document.
that they ought to, yes. And the one that I witnessed, I saw with my own eyes, the party representative at Hope Government School, they all got the same. So you saw the PO, she put in the two envelopes, one for the CEO and one for the RO, the same document. Then she ripped off the back of it and she gave every one of the legitimate officers there from the different parties their copy. Then she instructed her officer with another copy, and that person went outside and pasted it with a scotch tape. And it's the same document she wrote with her hands in the carbonless copy sheets. So it's the same document.
People sign on this document?
Yes, the political parties are asked to sign. The PO signs. Any observer group there signs. Yes. So everybody's asked to sign.
And you've actually witnessed
I've
this
witnessed
at
this.
first hand on
I
more than one
witnessed this
occasion?
first. Well, I witnessed it at one polling station at Hope Government School.
At Hope.
Yes.
Thank you.
I want to take you back to the spreadsheet. When Mr. Lowenfield entered the room, this is after the 17 discrepancies had been recognized and Mr. Lowenfield entered the room. Did he take up the spreadsheet and then show it to the party agents and all local observers there?
What do you mean, like lift it up like this?
No, did you all then have access to the spreadsheet which you hadn't seen before?
I've never got access. I personally never got access to the spreadsheets.
Okay.
So I don't know if others got, but I never did.
Well, did you hear whether he made any inquiries of the DROs who had been calling from the spreadsheet? Did he ask them about why there were discrepancies in the numbers after the comparisons had been made?
No, he didn't ask. He one of the things I know he did do, he acknowledged the error of the spreadsheet when he got the sample of 3 original SOPs, and the parties, all the other parties, showed their SOPs, and he acknowledged the discrepancy in this spreadsheet.
Sure. So, is it correct to say that the CEO stopped the process at that point?
The room was very loud, so
The process stopped itself?
the room was very loud.
Yes.
Um,
So it meant that nothing could continue, correct?
I don't think I could have done any work in that environment, so I don't think anybody. It was lots of shouting, people were shouting fraud.
As a result, that brought the system, the counting to an end, the verification to an end.
Yes,
Yeah.
no further work was done at
Right.
that point in time.
The environment was turbulent.
Very turbulent. I wouldn't want to say turbulent, very turbulent.
I just want to ask you something, to go back a little bit. You said that two persons who you understood to be deputy DROs for East Bank. Did they have any identification as being DROs, actual DROs?
They were introduced as DROs by their seniors, so no, I didn't verify whether they were DROs, but they were introduced as DROs.
Sure. Now, did the CEO leave the room at that stage? This is after the commotion and the protests and so on.
Can I ask for permission to revisit my notes?
Sure. If you could look at paragraph 21.
Yes, he left the room. Yes, he left the room.
And at about shortly before 6 o'clock, well, when he left the room, did he say why?
Yes, he said that I'm going to now take this situation to the full commission for them to deliberate on it.
And did he return to the room just before 6 o'clock?
Yes, he did.
Did he speak to you all?
He spoke to the room by saying that the commission has agreed to revert to the original process that we left the prior night, which is showing of the statement of polls.
And did he give any commitment with respect to the continuation of the process, the smooth continuation of the process?
Yes, well, I think yes, he did give a commitment.
What did he say?
He basically said we are going to revert back to the original process that was started at the inception of the verification process, which was comparing GCOM's original statement of poll with the copy of the statement of polls that was distributed to the different stakeholders.
Can I ask you, do you know the names of the two DROs who were engaged in the spreadsheet process? If you can't remember, just say so.
I can't remember, but I can't remember but I know it was females.
They were
Both
females.
Yes, both of them were females.
When the CEO returned shortly before 6 p.m. and spoke to the room and so on, did anyone make any recommendations at that stage?
Yes, well, in the room was the General Secretary of the People's Progressive Party, Dr. Barjagdio, and he asked for three things. One, he asked that if we can get a projector into the room to put the tabulation sheet, because after showing and comparing statement of polls with statement of polls, the GCOM officer then typed those numbers into the tabulation sheet. So he asked if that typing process with the output could be projected onto the wall using a projector. He also asked if we can complete sub-district by sub-district rather than moving from South Georgetown to East Bank and so forth. If we can complete everything from one sub-district and get a tally of that, those totals. And then the third thing he asked, when completing the sub-district, if that sub-district can be printed and distributed, the verified and tabulated numbers for that sub-district, if it could be printed and distributed to the stakeholders in the room. And Mr. Lowenfield agreed to everything.
And you restarted the process, and you restarted for East Bank Demerara, which
Yes.
is where you had left off.
So we started back East Bank Demerara from zero.
Okay.
So the very first SOP started again.
And did you start back using the same person, same GCOM employees?
No, they brought in a gentleman who I subsequently learned was Mr. Livan, and a young lady, but I don't know her name.
And did the process continue?
It started, and then at about 9 that night, Mr. Livan said he was tired and he needed some rest. Now I recall it, the word he used, he needed some emergency rest. So he said he needed some rest.
And did he remain in the room?
No, there was protest, but he picked up the computer, picked up the flash drive, disconnected everything from the projector, secured the SOPs that were in front of them with the...
Okay, just
yeah.
pause, please. So, at 9 o'clock, the GCOM employees say that they are tired, wanted to rest. Now, immediately after this, did you see the GCOM chairperson?
Yes. So after they had left the room, the GCOM chairperson, first time I've seen her that through that entire process. Actually, to be honest, it's the first time I've ever seen the good lady in my life. So, she came into the room and she asked everybody in the room to be empathetic, that the young lady had a particular illness, and let us see with her. So basically that's what she said, and she left the room.
Did she speak to you about getting a replacement for that worker who was ill?
She wasn't particularly clear, but she said that the CEO of GCOM is working on it.
And was he there when she spoke to the room?
No, he wasn't there.
And did she leave at about 20 past 9?
Yeah, she just came to deliver that message that we needed to be empathetic.
Sure. Now, at about 10 p.m., did you see the CEO?
Yes, he came into the room.
And did he make any request, or did he say anything?
Well, he said that he's trying to get 2 more DROs to come and work with us.
Did he ask for a particular period of time to accomplish that?
I can't.
Would you
I
like
would
to
mind-
refresh your memory?
If I may.
Might
yeah.
he be shown paragraph 24?
Yeah.
Yes. Can you now tell us how much time he asked for?
Well, at that point in time, he asked for 45 minutes to get replacement officers.
And did replacement officers arrive at about 12:45 on the 5th of March 2020?
Yes, they arrived several hours later at 12:45.
When they came in, was the CEO there?
Yes, he came with them. As I said, one was a gentleman and one was a lady. And they were given their instructions to commence the process.
And did the process commence did the process commence at 1:21 a.m.?
Thereabouts, yes, about 1:21 a.m.
And did it begin or recommence with a worker called Mr. Enrique Livan?
Yes, he was the name of the gentleman, yes. That was the name of the gentleman.
So
And-
what process started at 1:21?
Well, they
Tell
started
us.
the process that we know, which is to show the original SOPs again, comparing it with ours. But it was really going very, very slow at that point in time.
Was the projector, was it now being shown up on a screen?
Yes, it was being shown on a screen.
And after 4 SOPs were done, what occurred?
Mr. Livan said that he is very tired and he needs to leave. And he picked up everything, the computer, this flash drive, disconnected everything from the projector, shut down the system, pull out all the plugs, and he and the young lady, well, he also picked up the SOPs and surrendered it to the GCOM corner of the room, the eastern part of the room, surrendered it to the officer there, and he left with the computer and, yes, he left with the computer.
May I ask?
Sure.
Yeah. So when Mr. Livan and his colleague were doing the reconciliation, there was no RO or deputy RO in the room at that point?
No, there was none. Well, I don't know if Mr. Livan is a DRO.
I see.
I don't know if he's a deputy
I was
DRO.
just wondering if they could just decide when to stop the counting without permission from, but as you say, maybe he was a DRO. You say that he surrendered the SOPs to a GCOM official?
Yes, they're always there in the eastern part of the room. As I said, they barricaded that
Yeah.
part, and there was many bags and documents, many documents there. That's a no-go zone for the public.
Thank you.
And when Mr. Livan and his colleague left the room, did you remain in the room?
Yes, definitely.
And subsequent to that, did you see police officers at Ashman's building?
Well, before the police officers came, there was a huge uproar outside of the room. But I did not leave the room because my mandate was to make sure protection of the SOPs at all time. But I heard a loud, very, very loud noise, lots of quarreling and shouting and fraud, and I heard the word fraud particularly. And then I saw 2 police officers coming, and they not into the room, but they went past the room. The room is a glass encased room, so you can see everything that is happening outside. So they went past, and they went to a room. And
But
then
you were not in a position to see what was going on in that room.
I have no
correct?
clue what went on in that room.
And after some time, did you see Mr. Livan return to the tabulation room?
I saw Mr. Lowenfield bringing Mr. Livan to the tabulation room with the police officers.
And what about the equipment which you had seen being removed from that room?
All of that, well, a computer come back. I don't know if it's the identical computer, but a computer came back, a laptop computer, and Mr. Lowenfield instructed.
Did you notice whether a flash drive was also brought back?
Well, Mr. Lowenfield instructed Mr. Livan at that point in time to insert the flash drive into the computer and project it onto the screen.
Did Mr. Livan comply?
Yes, he did.
And could you tell us what you saw?
Well, we saw that the numbers.
Tell me what you saw.
Yeah, what I saw was the first thing I saw was the tabulation sheet for the 21 polling stations that we did for the East Bank of Demerara. And those numbers for me looked identical to what I had. But then one of the other persons in the room says, look, let's click and see what South Georgetown had. And when they clicked on South Georgetown, the numbers were altered. South Georgetown, altered.
Well, all you can say is that they were different.
They were different from what we originally left the room with many nights ago together.
So I just want to be clear on that. When they clicked on it, it came up on the
It's different worksheets. Right.
it came up on the screen.
Yes.
And it remained on the screen
Yes.
long enough
Yes.
for it to be scrutinized.
Yes.
And for comparisons
Yes.
to have been made.
Yes.
Thank you.
So you say, so what we have got from you is that the numbers which were posted on the screen by Mr. Livan upon Mr. Lowenfield's instructions for South Georgetown were different from the numbers which you had accumulated from your statements of polls.
And that
correct?
was agreed with the original SOPs from the very first night.
Right. Now, can you now recall, sir, just as you had done earlier when discrepancies had been found, can you now recall or tell us what were the differences?
Well, the difference, as I said, everyone was a casualty from the process, except the APNU AFC. Everyone, and if I may be permitted, some parties got like 2 votes and then their vote would change to 1. So it was strange. That's the smaller parties. But everyone became where their numbers came down and the APNU numbers went up.
And what was the response of the party agents in the room to this?
Well, it was pandemonium.
Okay.
Pandemonium at that point in time.
And did Mr. Low, well, so did I take it, did you all bring this difference, these differences to the attention of the CEO?
Well, he was there.
Right?
He was in the room when all of this is being discovered.
And what did he say in response?
He said this thing has to be investigated administratively. And
Did he explain what that meant?
no, he didn't.
By this time, had the police officers gone?
No, they were still there.
Did he make any inquiry of Mr. Livan?
No, he didn't in front of us. He said it just got to be investigated administratively. I mean, people were inquiring of Mr. Livan, but Mr. Livan was totally silent.
So having made that announcement that this issue would be investigated administratively, were you ever aware of any results of the administrative inquiry, if there was one?
Never heard back on the issue.
Did you ever ask what has become of the administrative inquiry, Mr. Lowenfield?
Since then to now, no, I never asked.
Are you able to say whether anybody from your party asked?
No, I'm unable to say.
Now, I take it that Mr. Lowenfield at that point called off the process and said that you all would restart at 9 o'clock the following day.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes, he said he needed time to investigate it administratively. So he disconnected everything and left with the police and Mr. Livan and everyone.
What became of the computer and flash drive?
It left in the room with the GCOM officials. I don't know what become of it.
Did you return the following day at about 8:30 a.m. to Ashman's building?
Yes, I did.
Did you see the returning officer there?
At 8:30 exactly, I don't think so, but he came in a few minutes later.
Sure.
Before you move on, you said to us just now that you don't know what happened to the computer and flash drive. Would you like to look at paragraph 28 of your statement?
Yeah. Right, that's why I said the GCOM official took it away, but I don't know what happened to it.
I don't get that sense
So-
from the paragraph 28.
28 basically, Mr. Lowenfield.
Lowenfield called off the process and said that we would restart at 9 a.m. He took the computer and flash drive and left the room.
Correct. So, yes.
So paragraph 28 is correct.
Yes,
And
the
you wish-
GCOM official I was
You wish
talking
to
about.
correct yourself and adopt paragraph 28.
Yes, I want to adopt it. Mr. Lowenfield did take the computer away because he was leaving and say, I'm going to administratively investigate this process. So Mr. Lowenfield took the computer and the flash drive and left the
Well,
room.
for me, it's important, Mr. Singh, because at some point I intend to ask, where is this computer and flash drive? If we can see it, it would be helpful.
Yes.
So you said you saw Mr. Mengo during the course of the morning the following day?
Yes, as I said, I returned about 8:30, and he came in some minutes after.
And what happened when he arrived?
He attempted to declare the results of the entire process.
Well, from the time when there had been the last stoppage of the process by Mr. Lowenfield to this time when you saw Mr. Mengo, had any verification or what was reconciliation taking place?
No, no.
Had you all even finished South Georgetown?
No, the 65 boxes that we were promised, that process didn't continue.
Had Ms. Myers come back to you with respect to the East Bank queries that you had had?
No, she didn't come back with
Sorry.
that.
So of the 4 sub-regions for Region 4, verification or reconciliation, as you prefer, had been completed for how many of the sub-regions?
None, because there was outstanding SOPs from South Georgetown. There was outstanding SOPs from East Bank. Nothing was done for East Coast of Demerara.
Could you have been mistaken that Mr. Mingo came and attempted to declare the results for District 4? Did you hear him say that he was attempting to do that?
Yes, he did try to, but again, I presume at that point in time the room had gotten very accustomed to being loud. So he was drummed out. He couldn't.
But you were there.
I was there.
Bear in mind that I wasn't there. So
Yes.
when you say he tried, what did he do?
Well, he.
So to help, not so
Right.
much for you, for me, who's distant from this and are inquiring into what happened. You say you couldn't hear what he said. So what led you to the view, or brought you to the view, that he was in fact attempting to make a declaration?
Well, when he came into the room, everyone was quiet at that point in time, and he said that I will now be declaring the results for District Number 4. And after he said that statement,
You heard him say
yes,
that?
he said that.
I
And-
will now be declaring
The results for District Number 4. But after that statement, he was talking, but there was no other. You couldn't hear him because the room was extremely loud at that point in time. So I didn't hear anything else from him afterwards.
I And at that point in time, according to you, Mr. Singh, East Bank, well, 2 sub-regions had not yet been verified.
The east coast of Demerara had not commenced, and North Georgetown
And-
was not commenced.
And, right.
And none of
And
the 4 were complete.
South Georgetown was still outstanding.
Was incomplete, and
East Bank.
East Bank was incomplete.
And he said, I am going to announce.
I'm going to declare the results for District Number 4.
And did he also indicate that his announcement would be based on spreadsheet information?
No, that's the only word I can recall hearing him say. And then the room went from here to here. It was loud. So I saw him maybe trying to speak a little bit again, but nothing I heard him. Because everybody had gone and they started to shout, fraud, this, lots of
His
words.
lips were moving, but you heard nothing.
Nothing after that, because especially the younger folks were louder.
I know it's been a long time, and perhaps you have lapses in memory. Look at paragraph 29 of your statement. We're going to be declared according to the spreadsheet count.
Yes. So
But there was no verification even with the spreadsheet.
there was no verification even with the spreadsheet.
That's my understanding. You
Yes.
confirm that.
Yes, I'm confirming.
Thank you.
And you heard him say that.
Yes, he said that. He said, I'm going to declare the region 4, District 4 is the word, the District 4 results with the spreadsheet count, yes.
Yes.
Now, because it's very important, and because there was a lot of noise, I want you to appreciate that if you need to correct anything in your statement, you can say so and explain it from the witness box. We want to be very clear as to exactly what you heard Mr. Mengo say. Was it that he was going to declare the results for District 4, or did he say that he was going to declare it according to the spreadsheet count? Everybody can make a mistake. I want you to be clear.
I'm absolutely clear in my mind that he said, I'm going to declare District 4 results in accordance with the spreadsheet count.
Now, where was the CEO there when he made this statement?
No, the CEO wasn't there. But when the noise went up, he left the room.
Mr. Mengo left the room.
Right.
Did you see where he went?
He went up the stairs.
And was he accompanied by anyone?
Yes, he was accompanied. I know who was very close to him was Miss Valda Lawrence. She was following him immediately behind his step. And I remained in the room. Others from the room followed him too. And this is not in my statement, but it just came back to me. I remember Miss Lawrence was on the step, and in Guyanese parlance, she was kind of having abuse with Miss Priya Manik Chan. She was on the step. Miss Manik Chan was on the ground floor. And it was very loud. And then she went up with some others to with Mr. Oh, but the steps were then now being guarded by policemen. So only permitted people were allowed to climb the steps.
Okay.
So she was on the steps and she went up with Mr. Mengo, and I was in the room. I didn't hear anything what he said, but I was told afterwards he purported to have declared something. I don't know
Oh.
what he did.
Sure.
You have been mentioning names, Mr. Singh, but my two brothers are not from Guyana, so it might be helpful if you tell the commission Who are these people? Miss Lawrence, Miss Manik Chan? I'm sure they don't know.
Yes, Ms. Valda Lawrence served with me she was in the next table with me, she was doing the same functions I was doing. I don't know her official role with the AP and UAFC in the room, but what I observed, she was trying to do the same thing I was doing, being a trained accountant herself. So she was doing similar functions that I was doing. So I presume she was tabulating. So she was the representative in the room from the AP and UAFC. Ms. Manik Chan, as I said, on the step, she's a member of the list of the People's Progressive Party at that point in time.
When you say a member of the list, you're talking about she was then a member of the list of candidates?
List of candidates, yes.
Sure. Now, you say when they went upstairs, Miss Valda Lawrence and Mr. Mango and some others, and well, there was this exchange between Miss Lawrence and Miss Manik Chan, you spoke about seeing a lot of police officers guarding the steps. Could you tell us a little more about that? Were they in uniform?
They were in uniform, and in Guyana we have a special police that wear brown clothes. The regular police wear blue clothes.
Which unit are they from?
They're from the Tactical Service Unit. They're the more well-armed, better trained officers. So.
And did you see them with arms on that
Yes,
day?
they all had arms. Yep.
Now, before we move on, do you recall anything about a bomb scare?
Yeah, there was a bomb scare. There was a bomb scare.
I'm going to ask that you be shown paragraph 31 of your statement.
Yes, there was a bomb scare.
You see there that you say that the bomb scare had been on the 6th of March 2020. Would you like to correct that now?
Yes, it was the day before the 6th of March. And please permit me, I'm over 50 now.
Okay.
The 5th of March, yes.
What happened? Well, how did it play out? Can you explain to us?
Well, we were in the room, and
Who was sitting next to you at the time?
I was sitting next to the U.S. ambassador
Sorry.
Saying one more.
Sorry.
Approximately what time you're speaking about on the 5th?
on the 5th.
In the morning period?
No, I don't think it was in the afternoon.
This is the afternoon.
Yes, it was in the afternoon. But yeah, I was sitting next to the U.S. ambassador, and we were chatting because it's part of the waiting period. You just keep talking about things. And a GCOM officer came in and said, you all have to leave the room because there's a bomb in the building. And I heard she said, I'm not leaving the room.
Who is she?
The U.S. ambassador. And I made that decision. I'm not leaving the room either. Because there's something she would know that I didn't know. So I decided I wasn't going to leave the room. And nobody left the room. Nobody left the room.
And apart from that GCOM employee, did you see the deputy CEO at any point?
Oh, she was coming into the room so often. It's now getting. Can I read?
Would you like to look at paragraph 32? It's a lot of material to remember. It's okay.
Yes, she also came into the rooms and shouted at the top of her voice. She said, I remember those words because it was like, this is a senior officer, this is not how you talk to me. She said, y'all get out of the room. There's a bomb in the building.
And did anybody leave the room?
No, everybody just Some people in Caribbean parlance chew their teeth and turn their face on her.
Student. Yes, student.
And turn their face on her.
Is this a convenient time?
It is, I was just about to say yes.
You take the luncheon break until 1 p.m.